Virtual photons. Why Ken's wrong. Virtual photons are a regular target of Ken Wheeler's scorn. Find out why experiments prove their existence and why the angry photographer feels forced to deny that. Photons underlie all aspects of light and electromagnetic energy. A wide range of scientific experiments has shown the existence of what scientists call virtual photons. Probably the two best known of these are the Stahlhofen-Nimmt quantum tunneling experiment and the Lamb-Rutherford experiment. Willis Lamb won the Nobel Prize in Physics for the latter experiment. Scientists call virtual photons' effect on hydrogen atom spectra the Lamb shift, in his honor. The terms virtual photons or virtual particles can be misleading. They make these particles sound like something artificial or imaginary, like virtual reality. However, as Professor Gordon Kane of the University of Michigan explains, virtual particles are indeed real and have observable effects that physicists have devised ways of measuring. Despite these facts, Ken Wheeler denies and ridicules the idea of virtual photons in virtually every video he makes, pun intended. He keeps claiming that virtual photons are not the inputs or outputs of any experiment ever performed on this Earth. As we've seen, virtual photons are the output of many experiments. Scientists observe virtual photons in several scenarios. One is the Lamb shift mentioned above. When Lamb and Rutherford studied hydrogen atoms' light spectra, they found unexpected energy level differences. These were caused by what scientists have come to call virtual photons. In the Stahlhofen-Nimmt experiment, the scientists aimed a symmetrical light beam at a pair of right triangle prisms with a gap between them. This split the beam into a reflected signal and a signal that transmitted across the gap. The two signals arrived at their detectors at the same time. Physicists call this effect quantum tunneling, and it's due to the virtual behavior of photons. Another example is the way electrons transition from one state to another inside atoms. When scientists excite atoms, it raises their electrons' energy state. Scientists had expected the electrons to stay in that higher energy state because those states are permanent. However, physicists observed these electrons returning to lower energy states because of interactions with virtual photons. In another example, physicists observed photons bouncing off one another. Since photons have no charge, there's no reason for them to attract one another. However, virtual photons divide into an electron and a positron, and these charged particles do interact and collide with other photons. Quantum electrodynamic experiments prove, with a margin of error of 10 to the minus 12, that virtual photons cause magnetic fields. These results make QED one of the most accurate physical theories in history. The Casimir experiment offers even more empirical evidence for virtual photons. Scientists place two mirrors facing each other in a vacuum. If they set them up at a distance smaller than the wavelength of the light they use, the mirrors will move toward one another. This happens because once the distance between the mirrors is shorter than the wavelength, virtual photons no longer fit between them. That reduces the energy between the two mirrors, drawing them together. So the angry photographer is dead wrong when he says that virtual photons aren't the input or output of any experiment. Their existence is a proven scientific fact. The Theoria Apophasis host devotes enormous energy to ridiculing virtual photons because they confirm that elementary particles exist. Strange as it may seem, he vehemently denies proven scientific facts we all learned in high school about electrons, protons, and neutrons. These notions fly in the face of more than a century of scientific progress. For example, this is a video of an electron captured by Sweden's Lund University Faculty of Engineering. And this is a color-enhanced photograph of photons displaying wave-like and particle-like characteristics at the same time. The angry photographer views discussions of subatomic particles and their behavior as moral issues based on his interpretation of Plato. Plato believed in the ether and in the afterlife. Some of Plato's rivals believed in atoms and that life ends with death. Since Kentucky Ken strongly believes in an afterlife, he labels atomists as evil. What do ancient Greek philosophers have to do with today's experimental observations? Nothing. What does particle physics have to do with morality, or even with the afterlife? Again, nothing. The underlying issue behind Ken Wheeler's ridicule of virtual photons is that, in his mind, if they exist, it means he's going to die someday. Leo Tolstoy famously wrote that a person who is afraid of death is one who has not lived his life properly and has broken the law of life. The angry photographer is entitled to believe anything he likes about life after death. None of us could claim to have all the answers on such an esoteric topic. Even so, he crosses a line when he rejects proven scientific facts that, in his mind, challenge his spiritual beliefs. Facts are facts, and we should all let them lead us toward the truth. Michael Crichton wrote that we all live in virtual environments defined by our ideas. Sadly, the environment Ken Wheeler's ideas define has virtually no connection to reality.